So happy Women's International Day, and I hope you've all had a beautiful Sunday. And today's subject that I wanted to share with you is really appropriate to today and how we as women, modern day women, may ensure that we are in touch, in connection with our internal landscape and the resistance that we may find in being in connection with that internal landscape, and how we may even connect with our internal landscape, which is essential to maintaining our womanness in the world, who we are in the world, how we show up in the world. There's going to be an opportunity to ask questions, and so I'll allow like 10 minutes at the end if you want to type any questions, and we'll go through those together at the end. So what prevents us from being in touch, being in knowing of our internal landscape? What is our internal landscape? So in today's world, we're very much focused on the external world. We have so much stimulus in the external world. There's so much around us to be doing, so much that can pull us out of ourselves and away from ourselves. And we can find that there are three key things that will be preventing us from being in touch with our internal landscape. So the first one I'd like to discuss is when we are in thinking rather than feeling. So feeling is the very feminine world. As women, and as the feminine, we feel our way through our life. Our feeling is our intuition. Our feeling is our knowing, and our feeling is where our body language is. It's where we've dropped down into our head. And thinking is obviously up here, when we are just using our bodies as a taxi for our brain. And this is where we've come too much into thought, and we've gone into monkey chatter, and it's like a goldfish swimming round and round and round in our heads, and we cannot seem to find the wood for the trees. So this is when we've gone into thinking. And when we've moved too far into thinking, then we've completely moved out of feeling. And when we've moved out of feeling, then we have abandoned, we have moved out of our internal landscape. And of course, in today's world, thinking is very much advocated. It's, we are encouraged to think. We are encouraged to be intellectual rather than using our intelligence, which is a totally different quality, a totally different way of being in the world. We are encouraged to read and educate ourselves. We are encouraged with television. We are encouraged with listening to things, so external information all the time. And all these things keep our mind ticking, keep our mind active, but they also keep us away from feeling. So it's one thing to notice, just whether you can move into balance between thinking and feeling. And if you find yourself too much in the thinking, just pausing and just noticing, what am I feeling here? Even placing your hands on yourself and asking yourself, how am I feeling? Or what am I feeling? And placing your hands on your body supports that. So that's the first thing that can take us away from our internal world, when we are thinking rather than feeling. The second thing I was feeling into today was when we have gone too much into trying and not allowing. So again, in modern day world, we are taught to succeed, to achieve, and we use the word trying a lot. we are always, I am trying, or, you know, he's trying. It's part of our language, and often we don't even think that we are using this word so much when we are talking about ourselves. And for me, trying is uncomfortable. Trying feels like a force, a push, a shove. So when we're driving along in our car and we've got some chap behind us trying to make us go faster, it's uncomfortable. Whenever anyone is trying to make us do something, it is uncomfortable. It is an unspoken pressure. It's an energetic force. So when we've moved into trying, we feel like we are in control. We have got to succeed. We have got to achieve. There is our goal. There is our intention. This is our expectation. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling in our body. It's the same as when we're trying to make our children do something. There's just no way that is going to happen. Whereas allowing is more the feminine. Allowing is a surrender. So not a surrender where we've given up. It's like, I surrender, I give up. Surrender is more of an inviting in, a welcoming. So instead of feeling that we've got to go out there and force and push and shove and try, that this is what we are desiring. This is where our focus is, and we invite and we allow that in. And allowing is far more, there's a grace to it. It's graceful, it's serene, it's effortless. And so when we've moved into allowing, we can then be more in tune with our internal landscape. So again, it's just noticing for yourself when you have moved into that world of trying, where everything just feels like a hard slog and a push and a shove. So that is noticing when you are thinking and you've moved away from feeling, when you are trying and you have moved away from allowing. And it may be that you kind of got caught up in thinking and trying completely. And so it's just noticing in yourself, how am I feeling? And when you are trying, and just pull yourself back a bit and just noticing that trying is so uncomfortable for our energy, and that actually we don't get there any faster, if at all. So the third thing is completely gone out of my head. Doing rather than being. So again, when we've moved into doing, we've come away from our internal landscape, our natural feminine, our natural womanness. Doing, again, is something that we've been taught, and it's also something, it's how we speak to each other. What are you doing this weekend? What are you doing tonight? It's something like we ought to be doing something. When we are even still and in relaxation, we're still doing something. We may have the TV on, we may be reading a book. There will be some kind of stimulus. We may feel that we always need to be in doing, in action. And there's an emptiness to doing if our being isn't there. It's just doing for the sake of doing. And when our being is in it, there's a different quality. So being isn't a laziness. It isn't non-active. It means that all that we are, our internal landscape is part of, there's a presence to our doing. So how do we know when we are in empty doing and that our being is not in our doing? Well, if you are doing, like you're just washing up and you're thinking about you know, that you're going to bathe the children after you've washed up, and then you're going to do this, and what you're planning tomorrow. Oh, but then what she said yesterday. Your being is not in your doing. You're not there. You're not in the washing up. So this is how we move into the world of doing. And as we do this, we pull ourselves away. We lose ourselves in the external world. The more and more we lose ourselves in thinking, doing, and trying, the more we lose connection with our internal world, and the more we lose connection with that nourishment and that resource that we need as women to thrive in the world. It's what sustains us. It what enables us to share or give to those around us from a place of fullness, rather than running a car on an empty tank, which is how most women are running their lives. They're giving, and there's no fullness inside. And because there's no fullness, there's no quality to that. Everything kind of gets watered down. The experience, the flavor of the sharing, the giving, is just a watering down. And whether that's sharing with a loved one, or sharing our gifts in the world, or sharing our service, whatever that may be, it will be slightly watered down if we are not in deep listening, if we are not in connection with our internal landscape. So I'm waffling very fast. No, I'm not. I'm doing fine. So what would I suggest to keep this internal landscape, your inner world, nourished and fed and well sourced? Well, it's not something that someone else can do for us. It's how we show up for ourselves on a daily basis. It doesn't, in my opinion, require us to take guru mountain moments, because we can't live like that. We do have this modern world where we need to attend to our work, to our children, to our homes, to our partners, to our lovers. We can't sit cross-legged floating on the clouds somewhere. So it's how do we integrate this into our daily life? Now, there's major resource points in us as a women that we're not always so connected with. And our internal landscape is obviously the internal world of our body. So when we've moved into thinking, we're up in our head. And so we need to move into feeling. How can we do that? With our breath. So just by placing your hand on your belly when you've noticed you've gone into thinking, and breathing. And when you breathe, noticing that your breath fully is allowed, so you're allowing to come into your belly, so you can feel the rise of your belly. I've said this so often, when babies are breathing, you can see the little bellies pumping up and down with the breath, because they are breathing properly. They are in their breath. So we can bring ourselves into our internal landscape with our breath. And when we do this, we are sourcing our womb space, which is what we need as women. We need to be in our womb space, our bellies. This is where we create. It's also where we nurture and nourish our babies, our projects. But it's also where we need to feel nurtured and nourished. So what if you have a resistance to being in belly breath? Well, I would encourage that it's a daily thing. So before you've even got out of bed in the morning, we all breathe. So we can take long, slow, deep breaths and allow that to come into our belly. We can catch ourselves during the day because we breathe all day. So you see, it's simplistic. We don't have to take moments out. It doesn't have to be complicated. And in fact, if anything that you're ever suggested is ever suggested to you and it's complicated, don't do it, because it's going to take you into thinking if you're going to have to work it out and not into feeling. So just feeling the breath. And also noticing, because of this belly area, how do you feel about your belly? So our bellies may have scars. Our bellies may not be quite as we would like them to be. But if we spend time in touch and learning and being and loving our bellies, loving the scars, loving the stretch marks, because they have stories, they're part of our journey, they're part of our adventure in life. And just being able to massage your belly. And if you feel resistance to that and the internal chatter and self-criticism and the inner body bully, then just noticing how you're talking to yourself. And we wouldn't talk to another person that way, so why are we talking to ourselves this way? And you just notice that and continue to move into love, into loving your belly. So it's loving this part of your body, breathing into part of this body. And then also noticing, how do you nurture and nourish yourself in your life? So this could be food. Do you nourish yourself with good food? Is there restraint and limitations and restrictions around your diet, or are you listening to what your body needs? Is food self-sabotage? How do you nourish yourself? How do you nourish your body with touch? How do you nurture yourself? Do you allow yourself time to walk in nature if that's what you love? Dance if that's what you love? Have long baths with bubbles if that is what you love? How do you nurture and nourish you? So sometimes it's about looking at, well, how do I nurture and nourish others? And now turning that around and allowing ourselves to nurture and nourish self. So this is a belly area and it needs resourcing. When we start to resource ourselves with nourishment, nurturing, touch, and love, we come into this space of listening. And this is really what the internal world offers to us, which is so delicious. Because when we are in our internal world, there's a knowing that doesn't need intellect and isn't of the mind, a knowing of who you are as a woman, what you need, what your desire is, what to be wearing that day, where to be going that day, what the next step is, in always galloping ahead and trying. There's a gracefulness to being in this deep listening, and it comes from being able to drop down into our sacral. But to birth all this, we need to be able to drop down into our roots. So it's, how do we ground it? So again, the breath. If we can allow the breath to come into our belly, but actually if we breathe a little bit deeper, the breath will take us down to our root. There's no way that it won't. If we are breathing properly, the breath will come, the natural organic pathway will come into heart, as it comes into our lungs, it will drop down into belly, and then it will plop us down into our root. And just noticing that, and maybe the resistance to being in the root, and placing your hand on your yoni, your root area. I mean, this is why children usually sleep like this, because they're putting themselves home. They're putting themselves back into their root. And when they're breathing properly, they're grounded. So we need to be grounded. Women need roots. It's our sustenance, how we move in nature, our relationship with nature, how we spend time in nature, whether we are moving through nature, which we tend to do at 15 miles per hour, 15,000 miles per hour, or whether we are in nature. There's a difference. So all these things we can notice. How do we feel about this part of our body? How do we love our yoni? How do we feel about our yoni? Do we pull ourselves up and away from it? Is there some reason why we don't want to go there? So we need belly and we need root. And this is supported. We find our way here with our breath. And then the other place of resource for women is obviously the breasts and the heart center. This is nourishment. This is where we give milk. But again, it's not this endless giving. How do we feed ourselves here? So how do you love you? And how comfortable do you feel about your own breasts? Can you spend time loving and caressing and just being with the breasts? Can you feel you can drop down into your breasts? Or are you tucking them away from not wanting to be noticed? Or is that inner body really there again, critiquing their size or their shape or the marks from having children or whatever it may be? So there's many ways in which we resist from being here in our breasts and our heart center, which we need, being in our belly, which we need as a woman's, to connect with our room space, our creativity, our place of deep listening, and our root, where we need to be grounded. And all of these places within us we can connect to purely with the breath and purely with our awareness. And this might feel like a lot, but you breathe every day and you do touch yourself every day. You have a shower every day. So it's slowing down in the shower, noticing the parts of your body that you are resistant to, and noticing if today you can meet them in a different way. If today you can meet yourself with tenderness, with kindness. If today you can take that breath just that little bit deeper so you can land a little bit more. If you can move away from thinking, catch yourself and move into feeling. If you can notice when you're trying and you think you're the answer to all the problems out there, and move yourself back into allowing. And also noticing actually where you've got caught up in drama and story and chaos as well, because that will whip you out into the external world. So noticing how you are ripped up and out of yourself and how you can bring yourself back into yourself, where this delicious listening can happen, so that you know how to navigate your way through the world and not be so controlled by what you think you should be doing, but rather how you feel you want to be, how you feel you want to share. I've waffled quite a lot, haven't I? And haven't left us 10 minutes for questions. Has anyone got any questions they want to type up? Or no? You're welcome to. No. Okay. Well, I think I've covered it, and I'm sorry if I've talked really fast, but I'm just aware that we only have half an hour. Would you be able to take us through a short breath meditation? Yes, it's easy. So as I said, it's not about changing the breath. In lots of pranayama, in yoga, they ask us to change the breath. For me, there's no point trying to change the breath if you haven't got your breath. You need to find your own unique pathway of breath and the rhythm of that so that you can immerse into it. So if you just closed your eyes, and as find your inhale and notice your exhale, and allow them to be long and slow and deep. Now your inhale, you will notice it organically touches your heart center as it fills your lungs. And if you breathe a bit deeper, it expands and comes into your belly, and just a little bit more, and it will plug you into your root. And then with the exhale, you can rise, root, belly, heart. So your inhale connects heart, belly, root. And your exhale, you rise from your roots, your belly, your heart. So just by being with the natural pathway of your breath, you find that your breath does all the work. There's nothing you need to do. It's effortless. It will take you to your heart space. It will take you into your belly, and it will plug you into your root, so that as a woman, you can rise from your roots, from the nourishment of your belly, and into the world of your heart. And that's as simple as it is. And I've quite enjoyed doing my first webinar, even I have waffled a bit. Any more questions? Thank you, Sarah. And Marcella says no questions. Big thank you. It's been very nurturing me and a great reminder. Yeah, we all know this stuff. We're women, for goodness sake. We all know this. I think sometimes we seek permission for it to be so. And there's no point waiting for that permission. And while we're waiting for that permission from the external world, we get drowned in the searching. And really the permission is from self to show up for self every day. I think that's really important. What I want to say, it's about showing up for yourself every day. And it's also the most important person to trust in the world is yourself. And if you get a feeling, a knowing, you hear something in your internal landscape, then it's important. That's where the action comes from. That's where the being becomes a doing. And that's how we build trust in ourselves. It's really important, actually, just really feeling how important it is to, if we feel something, not to doubt. We've got to follow that with some action. And this is how we build a relationship with trust of ourselves. Even if that feeling, that knowing is being judged by the external, just trust self. And go with that. And that, again, takes you deep into your relationship with your internal landscape and your relationship with body and a relationship with the amazing, beautiful woman that you are. Yeah, because every woman has her magic and this world needs your magic. So thank you for listening. And I really hope that you can take something from today. It's recorded, so you'll be able to listen to it again. And just one small thing every day, one small thing every day, and you'll find that you'll be able to hear yourself more in the chaos and the bullshit of the external world. Okay. Lots of love.